Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could please have the reading of the mission and the vision.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
The vision statement of Richmond Community Schools is a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, celebrations. Dr. Wright.
Good morning, Board President, trustees, community. Today, I would like to ask that we honor a serviceman within our district, like so many other classified servicemen and women, that continues to exercise magic on a daily basis to bring joy to the students that he serves. And so I would ask that from our transportation department, bus driver Mr. Ponder approach the podium to be acknowledged and celebrated. Mr. Ponder. Mr. Ponder is a bus driver here within our district and has been a bus driver for many years in RCS. Mr. Ponder is bus driver of bus number 111. Last spring, as we all endured a challenging school year, Mr. Ponder, as well as many other drivers, went above and beyond. But especially on bus 111, Mr. Ponder made it so that each day his students had a memorable moment before as well as even after their school date. And so last spring, Mr. Ponder had made a special promise to several students, but one in particular, a young Miss Payson Atwell, that indeed she could maintain a role and responsibility on the bus once summer had passed and school season had started back up. Young Payson felt that indeed Mr. Ponder was going to live up to his word and live up to his honor. However, as is any case with students and with time, sometimes there is doubt. Well, lo and behold, as Payson re-arrives to school this past fall, the first thing Mr. Ponder did was honor his word and made sure that she indeed was given a role and responsibility on that bus. And for young Payson, it made the world of difference. And for, as we know, with the abnormalities that we are faced with, unfortunately, the COVID experience, it really set the tone not only for Payson, but also for so many other students on Mr. Ponder's bus. And so I asked Mr. Ponder, who, as we know, with a lot of our hidden helpers and with a lot of our magical professionals on the classified side, to be here this evening. And like so many others that I've worked with in the past, Mr. Ponder is one that appreciates the acknowledgement, but could do without it. A handshake and a thank you, for the most part, is what Mr. Ponder needs just to continue to do his job. But I did ask, and didn't have to twist his arm as much, but I did ask that he come and be acknowledged and share with us some of the reasons as to why he does what he does on a daily basis to make a difference in the lives of kids. After Mr. Ponder has an opportunity to speak to us, I did indeed invite Miss Payson Atwell and her family, who was here, and I'm going to ask young Payson and her mother to come up and just speak about the experience they've had with Mr. Ponder on bus 111. So, Mr. Ponder, if you don't mind just sharing, why is it that you do what you do, and why you've done it for so long, and what is your purpose and premise on a daily basis serving our students?
I'm a retired police officer, and I decided back when I was working that I would like to drive a school bus, maybe help the students. And so anyway, after I retired, I got my license, and I've been driving now for about 14 years for student transit. And I've had this same route for about 8 years. I have Westview and high school. So anyway, I have some of the older students, or the ones that are leaders, to be my bus helpers. And so they help with the younger students that maybe can't find their seat, or sometimes they may talk too much. But anyway, Payson asked me last year, and I told her she could be a bus helper, which she is. But I'm glad her mother contacted me and told me how she felt about everything. And so anyway, that's why I do it, and I enjoy the job. It's a very rewarding job.
On behalf of our Board of Governors, if you all don't mind, and crowd, just joining me in a round of applause for Mr. Ponder and Ms. If we can just take a photograph, Mrs. Claypool here is going to take a photograph. I know it's COVID, we're not supposed to take masks off, right?
Can we get Payson up here?
Absolutely. And now if Payson would like to approach, and Mother, if you'd like to come up as well, you're more than welcome. So we can get a photograph. Payson, if you will stand here in the middle, and have your mother come and stand with us as well. That's what it's all about. And we're smiling under the mask, right? Yeah, no doubt about it.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Gotcha.
And Ms. Atwell and young Payson, if you all would like to just, and Mr. Ponder, if you could stay, if you all don't mind just sharing your experience. And Payson's a little shy, so Mother's going to help her.
Change your mind? Well, she's getting a little shy,
Understood.
but as a parent.
We're all friendly here.
As a parent, it's very hard to send your child off with a stranger, essentially. And although we respect the school systems and their judge of character and who they put into place to take care of our kids when we're not able to, I have to say that Mr. Don was one that has always done above and beyond. Payson would much rather ride the bus to school every day, and I think it's because of the role that she gets to have on that bus. She's not only getting transported, but she's learning extra duties and responsibilities and making relationships. Mr. Don has contacted us on days when he's running late or something might influence a change in the bus route, which is completely appreciated, especially when you're wondering, did I miss the buses? What's going on here? She looks forward to coming home or to getting up and going on the bus, and she talks about the experiences, and you can tell that when she sees him, it's a complete different reaction than what she gets with the other bus drivers. When someone fills in, she gets really upset. Where's Mr. Don at? Unfortunately, there was a time frame a couple weeks ago where Mr. Don wasn't feeling the best, and every day she came home and was, I hope he's okay, Mom. Can you check on him? Can you check on him? So we're grateful to have him back. We're grateful to have him in our lives. He's kind of became family over the years. He's started out with my older child. She had Mr. Don until she moved to middle school, and I just felt that he needed to be recognized because in this, during this time frame, there's so many shortages. We're short bus drivers, we're short teachers and helpers and all aspects of the school, but he hasn't skipped a beat. He is very punctual. When he says he's going to be there, he's there on that time. He shows up, he does his job, and we're just very grateful for him. It makes it very easy to send her on the bus when we have someone like him looking after our kids.
And that's what it's all about, as you mentioned, that trust, and just knowing that she, as well as all the other students, are secure, just as is the case on all of our buses here in RCS. But Mr. Ponder, to know that you were a retired police officer, which is, again, is another serviceable profession, and within our Board of Governance, we also have a law enforcement officer that also exerts such confidence and courage, and to know that you transition into the role as bus driver is just... Payson, if you don't mind, I know you're shy, and I know you got a lot of adults looking at you. How old are you, young lady?
8.
8 years old. And so you are in what grade?
3rd.
3rd grade, okay. And so you have a role and responsibility on the bus. Of what you see Mr. Don doing on the bus on a daily basis, which I've always felt bus drivers has a very difficult role in the world of education. They have like a mobile classroom because they have to maintain order on that bus, while also worrying about all the knuckleheads and knuckleheadettes around them driving. And so I know sometimes when Mr. Don puts his stop arm out, there's some impatient adults, but I'm sure he maintains his cool. So my question to you is this: of what you see Mr. Don doing, and he makes it look so easy and it's always fun, do you think you'd like to be a bus driver when you get older? Really? Okay. All right. Well, that's what it's all about. It's all about service. So
I want to know the favorite part, because it sounds like you've got some duties there on your bus ride. What's the favorite part of your job there?
Helping little kids are standing up, facing backwards. I want to tell them to get down so they don't get.
Got to help them sit back in their seats. Awesome. Good job. Appreciate your help. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from our Board of Governors, or?
No question, just comments, because he stands here, very humble, and you heard him mention, having been a former police officer, but a bus driver for 14 years after how many, almost 30 years?
36 now.
36? Okay, so I'm just like half a year from that amount of time.
On the roads, yeah.
But what you don't know, he had worked all the way from patrol to chief of police. So, chief of police to bus driver, still investing his time in supporting our community. So I think that's one of the things he won't talk about, but that the public should know about him.
Wow. Again, Mr. Ponder, we are just truly thrilled and amazed that you're definitely servicing within our district, as well as servicing our city for so many years. Young Payson, and definitely along with, I'm sure, so many of the other students and parents are very appreciative. I know we have Mr. Thomas and our new member of our student transit leadership in the crowd as well. We'd like to thank you all for your continued service. With this year being a struggle in schoolhouses and school districts around the country, to know that student transit, that SOTO, that our drivers are doing all they can to service our students, I think is remarkable. We know that in some areas of the country, they have implored their National Guard to drive students to and from school. And we also know in other districts, they've had to cancel school because they haven't had drivers to service the district. And so I'm not saying that we're not immune to challenges, but we are definitely playing the cards that have been dealt, and we're definitely playing them with a serviceable heart and a caring, compassionate manner. So again, kudos to you all. Young Payson, great job, young lady, and in due time, maybe we may see you as a bus driver, classroom teacher, or an educator yourself. You seem to have a serviceable spirit to yourself as well. And so we thank you all again. Thank you so much.
You can
Thank
train Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Want me to retire?
She's gonna get a little bus driver.
Yeah, you know what? That may be a transition for Officer Stevens.
Wow.
All right, well, that's hard to follow.
Mayor or bus driver? I don't know which.
No, Jeff. Are we adjourned yet?
Moving on. Item 3, public commentary. Mrs. Claypool, do we have anyone?
Nope.
No one signed up. All right. Moving on to item 4, consent items. Dr. Wright?
Board President, trustees, I come before you this evening to ask for consent for items 4.01 and 4.02. For these consent items, I do ask that we approve minutes as well as the Human Resource Report and the addendum.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5, action items. Dr. Wright.
Board President, trustees, I come before you to recommend that we update the non-certified salary schedule. There is no change to the substitute teacher rates. However, administrators within this salary schedule will be compensated the $1,500 to the base salary. The classified contractual and administrative staff base salary increases will be retroactive to the beginning of the 2021-2022 contracts. Changes to the non-contractual hourly employee rates will be effective November 10th, 2021. The recommendation again is that, as superintendent, the Board of School Trustees approves the salary schedules and increases in employee compensation and the correction to benefit package 1 as presented.
Make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
Board President, the only thing that I would ask the board to consider with the fact that at this point we have yet to find ratification with the proposed contract to our faculty, our certified teaching faculty. I would just be curious if the board would take conversation and/or take into consideration that we postpone and/or table the administrative salary increase, but yet proceed with the classified contractual salary increase as presented.
I mean, do you want us to have a conversation, or is that what you're asking us to do, or?
I think that if nothing else, at this particular juncture, as we understand and know, the teachers are currently communicating amongst one another, educating one another as to what's before them. And before we proceed with the administrative salary increase, that we just either consider postponing that until after the teachers have had an opportunity to move toward ratification, but yet not be delayed by passing on the salary increases for, again, as we mentioned, those hidden helpers and the classified custodians, secretarial staff.
I think that seems like a good team approach. I mean, and that's what we are, we're a team, so I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, the only thing that it makes it, I mean, we have different bargaining units when it comes to the way the educational system works, so in some ways, since the administrators are not part of that particular bargaining unit, one way it seems unfair, but I think on the other way, I think it speaks to the quality of our administrators to stand tall and say, let's postpone ours until we can come to an agreement with the teaching staff.
It's not part of it.
So, if that's the will of the board, I'm fine with it, but I think administrators should be thanked for willing to stand up and wait.
And being team
Well,
players.
It makes sense too, and it's been past practice to extend to administrators the same thing that we do to teachers. And, you know, with non-ratification now, who knows, that may change. So I would suggest we wait on the administrative side too. And again, thank you for the administration for bringing that up and willing to do so. But I think the non-classifieds need to go ahead and get theirs.
I think that's one of some of our lower paid folks, and I think to have that money available for the holidays, I think we are prudent to move forward with their raise now, and so, because through no fault of their own, they shouldn't be delayed. But I also agree, I think tabling administrator salaries is a sign of goodwill and good faith, and I appreciate that by the administration.
I am going to ask this question. I mean, we have, this proposal has now been, for the administrators, been exposed. So what happens if we settle less with the certified staff? Does that mean we lower the administrative raises? I mean, how, or are you saying you want to tie it to, I guess we'll work through that.
Yeah.
We'll work through that. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of that becomes based on monies available. So,
It's not
hopefully
part
it
of
works
the-
out so it's not an issue. But I guess I just want to be the one to point out that it could be an issue. So,
As we move forward.
Is that a former
I'm good with it.
version or what?
If that's what we're wanting to do, then you'll need to rescind your motion, right?
yeah, so I'll modify my motion to say that we'll do this,
The classified contractual base.
right, thank you for the
I'm
words.
sorry. Yep.
So the raises will move forward with everyone that's recommended tonight except for the administrators.
Aaron, are you okay with that?
So we're going to go non-certified salary schedule that's posted here. That's going into effect.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're going to vote, or at least that's what we're going to vote to approve. Correct?
Yes. Yes, sir, the non-certified salary schedule. Mhm.
And that's the only thing attached, correct? The administration one isn't, so I think your motion was right, or I guess,
Mhm.
to begin with.
And just to follow up, I know has been some discussion on some additional monies for the paraprofessionals and the substitutes. I don't know, I know it was stated that substitute salary would not change. Did the paraprofessional, had that changed more?
I don't know what's going on.
Not at this time.
At this time, the substitute as well as paraprofessional salaries as we move forward, there's something we'll table and have to discuss at a
Okay,
It's consistent with the whole. The amount, they're changing,
yeah,
but it's consistent with the,
yes.
yeah.
So if we wanted to make significant changes more than the quote 2%,
We would bring it back.
so that just comes back? Can that come back mid-year?
It can come back at any time the board desires.
Was that just needed some more time before this came out to have
We
that?
just need some more time to discuss that with you,
Okay,
as trustees, and then ideally, as things play out with the certified, we'll have a better understanding as to how to reapproach the conversation. I think right now, as we know, with the collective bargaining process still in motion with the certified faculty, it is, I believe,
Guys, have an
creating
executive session tonight to talk about that.
some delays and pauses in other areas and other ideas we'd like to explore
Jennifer's not
at this
here.
particular time.
But that's not tied to the bargaining unit at any way, right? I mean,
No, that's why you can bring it back at any time.
That's why it can be revisited anytime.
Yeah, yeah. It required further conversation, because it impacts, there's layers we need to discuss on that, just to be sure everything is covered. So there just wasn't enough time to do all of that
that's fair enough.
and get this recommendation to you in time for tonight's meeting.
Well, I definitely hope that, I'd want to see that come back fairly, maybe as soon as bargaining is over, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still confused on why, but I guess we'll get that answer soon enough.
And that's good. All right, so any other discussions or comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Oh, wait.
Sorry, just to clarify, we are voting to approve the salary schedule for non-certified employees.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yep.
as presented.
Okay. And, okay. 'Cause there's also an attachment,
Yes, the benefit package one is part of the recommendation.
okay, all right.
That's, it's just some cleanup that needed to be done,
Okay.
and we caught that as we were looking through things.
As we were looking at the non-exempt and exempt, yeah.
Okay,
It just cleans up language. It's not
Gotcha.
a change to anyone.
thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Dr. Wright.
Board President, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Karen Scow, our Chief Financial Officer, approach for recommendation for 5.02, and also for
All the rest of them.
5.0, yeah, 03, 4, and 5, yes, Mrs. Scow.
Okay, so before you tonight is the contract that is with Carroll Electric, Inc., and this is the contract that directly follows the RHS Mechanical Modernization Project bids that were awarded at the last meeting. Tonight, that contract is before you with a number of exhibits, and Mr. Cross and I have reviewed it, and it is before you as presented and is recommended for approval.
All right.
I move to approve the Carroll Electric contract as presented to the board.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
Second.
Second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Dr. Wright?
Let me keep going. Okay, so the next item before you is an additional appropriation resolution. We held the public hearing on the additional appropriation at the October 5th board meeting. And this is for the debt service fund. We are asking for the appropriation to cover the debt service payments. This was something that we knew about as soon as the budget order came out in January, so it is just process cleanup. So tonight before you is the 2021 resolution for an additional appropriation in the debt service fund.
Thank you.
Make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
Second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, the next contract before you is with Young Men of Purpose LLC. This is for a mentoring program that will be utilized throughout our K-12 buildings. It includes digital curriculum, 2 virtual consulting sessions, 1 in-person consulting session, as well as books and workbooks. Tonight before you is the contract with Young Men of Purpose LLC and is recommended for approval.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
It actually, as I was looking at it, it'd be interesting to kind of get summaries about how this works and how successful or non-successful. It'd be interesting to see, I don't know how you would measure it, but it would be interesting to see the success of it.
I would like to hear more about what it's going to look like.
And so what this is the mentoring program that our Director of Student Services, Student Support Services will commandeer. The program will indeed serve throughout the course of our school district. This mentoring program will provide not only in-school mentoring for both our female and male populations, but also after school and many other opportunities for our students to be exposed to community service, as well as collegiate and career-oriented opportunities. The program is one that has been renowned, or not only around the Midwest, but also around the country, and it has had time-tested and proven results. And as far as to speak to Mr. Schleifer's question, there are indeed measurements that can be had and made with the program. And I think one of the strongest results that we'll see is students that, as is the title of the program, students will be walking and also serving with a purpose, not only within our school system, but also within our communities as a whole. And from past practice, the mentorship has really changed a lot of lives. And I know here within our school community, we have that many more lives to continue to touch. And so it's, I think, going to be a positive program that's going to enlighten and increase the metaphoric horizons of so many youngsters. And more importantly, there's going to be a lot of adults and other educators who are going to contribute and take part in the program so that it is able to just be one of the experiences that just continues to give. There's going to be peer-to-peer leadership. High school students will, quote-unquote, adopt middle school students. Middle school students will, quote-unquote, adopt intermediate students. And so there's some peer-to-peer leadership, but it's really character development and all those great values and qualities that we all grew up with that we, unfortunately, nowadays are somewhat scarce to see as readily. And so it should indeed have a positive contribution to the culture and climate of our schoolhouses around the city.
How much of a time commitment is it going to require from you're talking about a high school student mentoring an intermediate school student, and then an intermediate school student mentoring an elementary school student. I appreciate that. How is the time commitment structured?
Once the program is in motion, and it takes time to develop the adults and the educators who are going to be participating, assistant principals, deans, teacher leaders, as well as those highlighted individuals within each schoolhouse that principals have deemed to be like that of a mentor, or we would somewhat call it like a big brother, big sister program from years past. But nevertheless, the time commitment, indeed, once we are able to interweave the program into the daily schedule, then it's simply, it could be twice a week that students are mentoring at the lower levels, and it can be virtually, especially now with technology. But we also, in past practice, have seen students that are conjoined either at the middle, or we bring the younger to the high school. Just a lot of exposure. But the time commitment it's dependent upon what event. During the week, it's maybe a class period that our high school students may go and visit dentists.
Okay, then let me extend it a little further.
Yes,
then.
sir.
An intermediate school student who's depending upon a parent to get them to school, or, a bus. How is their day or their week going to be structured so that they are actually able to spend time with that student that they may be partnered with? I know I can understand the ability for a high school student who may have a vehicle to do so, but for an intermediate student of 13 or 14 years old,
Yes, sir.
The logistics kind of concern me how it's going to do. I was a mentor for 18 or 19 years. It was easy for me to go park my car at a school and go and do it, once or twice a week. It may not be as easy for them.
And in those instances, what has been done in the past with this particular program is that a particular bus would be arranged to transport, because once the program is up and running to the level that we know we can get there, we'll have several mentors that will board a bus, head to a particular school, and have mentees that they would work with throughout a particular week. I mean, it's going to take time, without a doubt, to develop. But if not, then again, with the virtual option, we have that. There also is going to be a lot of after-school opportunities and activities. That's actually where the program will start, more or less after school. But and I apologize, as far as the peer-to-peer leadership and mentoring, that is something that will indeed come down the road.
As I was looking at it, I was thinking to myself that this is a lot of it would be higher level training,
Yes.
because you're talking about 10 interactive books and consulting sessions, so this is not set up to be all-inclusive from the beginning. So
No, it's something.
I kind of see this right now, that we're actually at kind of a higher level right now of developing the program, developing our plans, developing how we're going to push it into the schools, and
Yes, sir.
developing the people that are going to be part of it carrying on. So
Yes, sir.
how quick we take it from this point to where we're actually touching the students. I mean, because that's one of the questions. We've had several mentorship programs over the years. As a matter of fact, I mean, Bridget's original job was just nothing but that, and she took that from the Melanchoffs. So we used to have a lot of churches that would do peer mentoring. We had peer studies at the high school.
And one of the things that really came up as we did the surveys and focus groups just recently was the community wants to see that sort of thing back. They want those
Well, that's what I was
those
hoping.
relationships.
I
And
was
so, I mean,
hoping that this also drew people from outside of the system.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they actually are going to be trained alongside our RCS educators to also be a part of. They also will be mentors. I know that we've had the communities and schools in past practice that have visited with our students during lunch periods as well as periodically during the week or the month. This particular program is going to be more intensive. It's going to be once it, and again, we're
So would it follow at a high level, like the peer study program we had at the high school years ago that Sue Ralston was head of?
That was more of a peer counseling group. So I think it would probably have aspects of it, but I don't know if it would be identical. That was its own, it was actually its own 501c3, so they were just housed at the high school. And I am not sure how broad that program was. It was a pretty intensive and pretty big program.
Well, I know they
So-
went down into the middle schools.
Yeah, so I don't know how much that will be similar or not. But
Right now-
parts of it I'm sure will align a little bit.
right now, of what I've been informed of and what I've been able to observe and learn is that of the mentoring programs that we have, which we are very appreciative of the individuals that have participated and contributed over the course of time. Of course, with COVID, we haven't had a chance to open the doors and allow as much mentorship. But this particular program, for example, we have, well, when we all were in school, it was known as homeroom. This particular mentor program would allow for homeroom of particular designated rooms to be more of a character development, mentor, young women of purpose, young men of purpose type programming. And again, this is semesters down the road, but to your point, Mr. Slifer, yes, we are still in the developmental stages of providing that PD. The entities such as community and schools, we have clergy, we have other business leaders that are wanting and anxious to be trained and contribute in more ways than one, and it's going to be more of a consistent mentorship than a lunch period here or there, or some of the things that I think we've been experiencing in the past, and the results I think will be rather tremendous.
And this curriculum, it is for women also, right? Because
Oh,
their
absolutely.
entire website is just young men.
Yes, yes, it
And
has.
it says their digital is not yet complete, I guess their curriculum is coming soon.
Yeah, because the contract mentions young men of purpose and young women of,
Yep.
as well as
Students.
young students
With a
of
purpose.
purpose. So I don't know what the differentiation is. It sounds like this initial contract is to train 30 people, it says.
Mhm.
It sounds like we're to a point now, like we have a lot of questions. I think it'd be great to have somebody come and tell us like, hey, this is what this is gonna look, this is how this is gonna play out. These are the people that are gonna be trained. Like with this contract, these are the people that are gonna be trained. This is how those people that are trained are gonna then reach out into their places. I think that would be, I think, useful for us to, just to hear more about, and for the public to hear more about, because,
And absolutely,
Yeah.
we definitely are planning to have the gentleman, Mr. Roy Dobbs, join our board meeting to share just that of what Mrs. Brunton had asked about as far as the gender. Typically what will happen, and what has happened in the past, is that young women and young men would be more at the intermediate and 7th and 8th grade level. However, the students with a purpose, as the students grow older, we're trying to allow for the genders to coexist in a mentorship realm, if you will. And so the young students with a purpose co-ed would be more high school, upper class, as we know the maturity and development. But to Mr. Morey's point, at this particular point, yes, system principals, building level leaders, deans, we have clergy, others that will be trained, and then from that will be the core mentoring team that will eventually permeate out and retrain others as the program expands. But yes, we definitely will have Mr. Dobbs join the school board to provide not only more background, also just the development of where things are in Richmond. We have a lot of folks that are excited to get underway. I was with many of our business leaders and clergy and other community influencers last week, and they are chomping at the bits to to get on board and contribute in any form or fashion to continue to improve upon our culture and climate, not only within our schools, but also as a city as a whole. I think this is the first step in doing so.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit concerned that it's almost entirely focused on men. I think the program looks super solid, and I understand the foundations are the same, but I guess I would also be open to if there were other programs in addition to this, to go along with this, that maybe, because I'm not sure, just saying it's Young Women of Purpose, when it's obviously been developed for men, I don't know if that's exactly what we need. And so I guess I would encourage us, as we get going on this and move forward, that we also make sure that it's meeting the needs of our female students. And if it's not, if we see something better, we could run 2 mentoring programs.
Yeah.
And I just, especially looking at their social media, it's all dudes. And
Their
that's,
website is as well, yeah, there's no mention of.
and so, that's a little troubling to me right now, so.
And what's interesting, I haven't had a chance to look at the most recent website, but I do know that the program has been used in predominantly girls' schools around the state, around the country. I know that churches have used this with both male and female. I know that I believe Brownsburg, along with Wayne Township, some of the other schools around the greater Indianapolis area are using it both male and female and have. But I know that the program, as far as the gender-based program, is relatively new. But it all really speaks to that character development piece. And so, as I said, this will be a necessary first step as we move forward. And indeed, we could have Mr. Dives come in and talk more extensively about the universality of the program.
Any other questions or comments?
I just think as it develops, it'd be good to have
Oh, yeah.
somebody, so that is the
Yep.
position that we
Mhm.
approved,
Mhm.
what,
Yep.
8 months ago?
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be
Yep.
great to hear from them and see what kind of their vision is and.
I know our administrative team, when we've discussed this with them, we're also anxious and excited of what they're seeing in our schoolhouses, to have such a program, be able to reference and acknowledge character development. As we know, unfortunately, it's not as extensive as it used to be. And so, like I said, this will be a great necessary first step.
All right.
Look forward to hearing about it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anything else? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to,
Our last
Scout.
action item. Okay, tonight, before you is a change order for the RHS second and third floor renovation. It is a change order for $6,311, and you will note that this is being split with the vendor, so it is not, the $6,000 is our portion, but, the total cost of the need is being split. So, it's my recommendation that we approve the change order as it's been presented.
I make the motion that we approve change order, action item 5.05.
I'll second.
motion by Kristen Brenton, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
I gotta say this, we've had a tremendous amount of change orders on this project. This project is, I think it warrants that maybe we might wanna look at some of our processes.
Well, I think we knew that the winning bidder did not have much experience.
Well, but
And I'm
yeah,
not
I
sure
don't
that
know.
doesn't weigh in the.
I don't know if our or maybe some of the areas, maybe we should be asking questions like, did we clarify things well enough? Did we have things designed well enough? Did we have the bid worded correctly? I mean, we've had what, 20-some change orders on this project?
Well, 17.
Close.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, I will note that I think that the design of the project to a degree was written so that change orders could be done because of the timing in which the bidding occurred and the plan for the project. What I will say is that even with the change orders, we are still well below the next lowest bid. So that is something to stay just aware of, and that's something I'm always keeping in mind. So we are still well below that next lowest bidder, but and the point is understood and taken into consideration.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to policy review and update. We have 2 first reading policies. Someone wants to read it all off and bundle them, that would be fortunate. If not, I will read them one at a time.
well, my computer decided to go through an automatic update, so.
All right. Item 6.0.
Technology is
I
great.
would, I'd like to move
Read it all.
to move policy 2532, right to review, reconsider instructional materials to second reading. And I would like to also move at the same time together policy 4722, school-sponsored publications and productions, from first read to second read.
Thank you.
Second that.
Second by Brad Walton. Any
Second.
questions
Second.
or comments?
I think we had our District 6 school board meeting, and it sounds like we may have some updates to the reconsider instructional material stuff in the future, which sounds ridiculous in my opinion. However, it's just something to be aware of and contact your legislators about and tell them to not force teachers and administrators and lots of other staff to have to go through lots of hoops for no particular reason, and limit their flexibility and their educational purposes.
I don't know that I would use for no particular reason. What I would say is use common sense. And I think some of the questions that people are asking are good questions. So I don't want to discount the questions that they're asking, but there has to be an easier way, like what Keith was talking about, is having everything posted online.
I guess that is my point when I say for no particular reason, that way is already here. You already have the ability to review and reconsider without adding more legislation. What they say, they added 150 new educational laws in the last session. It's becoming overwhelming. The school law book is that thick. So I think I don't know, again, I'm preaching here, but sorry, I need a soapbox moment here.
Well, that's the balance that we have to have between parents asking questions and getting answers versus, we don't need the legislators legislating it, that's for sure.
Exactly, yeah, I mean, that's what school board meetings are for. I mean, every 2 weeks, there's the opportunity to ask those questions, in addition to the ability to contact the school at any point and find out, what is in the curriculum.
I would say the beauty of 2532 is its simplicity, because as a policy, that's about all it can be, is simple and say there's the right to review. The obvious question is, what then next? And that is going to be so fact-specific that any attempt to try to answer that question would be futile. I mean, it'd be laden with assumptions that may or may not prove to be true, create consternation among people that may or may not be necessarily, may not be necessary. But I think having the policy in place, letting parents know they have the right to look, even though as teachers you've known that all along, but that's really what that policy does. I couldn't agree more that the less the legislature intervenes, probably in the long run, the better. And
Well,
that just doesn't apply to education.
I wanted to put a note out there too to the media that's here tonight. I've been contacted by a member of the media and a couple parents wanting to know if this was in direct response to what's going on nationally with the difference in curriculums and everything. This was adopted in 2010. It was last reviewed in 2017. This is all part of a review process that we have in place to go through all of our policies. We're not sliding anything in here. This is just housekeeping that we're doing right now. So, just wanted to squash any rumors that are out there.
All right. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 7, board reports and old business. I have nothing on the agenda. Is there anything from the board? Our administration?
I don't know if this is a place to mention, but Nicole and I have had the pleasure of touring Charles and Dennis and Star over the last couple of weeks, and we have more planned, but just a great opportunity to get in the schools and get a tour from the principals and talk with teachers and talk with students and just see all the exciting things going on at our buildings. So it's been a joy.
Fantastic. Thank you both.
And the principals and the teachers have loved seeing us. They're excited that we're there and feeling like they're connected with what we're doing and seeing, just the vision of what's going on here at central office. And yeah, it's been
And you've
great.
made social media, so, yeah,
Oh, all right.
so that's even better.
What's social media?
So, but no, I think people do seem excited that you're there, so I appreciate that.
Well, just to piggyback on what Mrs. Brunton and Mrs. Stoltz have mentioned, if I can, just the idea that, as we've discussed as a Board of Governance, and as the commitment that you all have made time and again, and the commitment that you still stand by as far as being an actively engaged Board of Governance and Board of Trustees, being present, being on site, getting in the thick of it. I know that Mr. Morey, if he doesn't mind me referencing, was just in one of our schoolhouses contributing his time, talent, and treasure, just as many of you all have over the course of time, and to know that that spirit is going to continue as we move down the road. Just that notion that it's a collective, I think is very, very important, and I'm sure that was captured on social media that Mr. Weber is referencing. Like Mr. Slifer, I'm still waiting on the definition of social media because I too struggle with some of that. I've never had any of the accounts. But Mrs. Hazelbeck is working with me, and so, but no, we definitely appreciate you all's presence and continue to encourage you all to get out and get in.
And I think having spent time there and doing similar roles, I just would like to say, Don's here. I think your role has modified over the last few months as well, and I just think, you could say this at every meeting, but I think it merits saying explicitly at this point how much change the teachers and administrators have gone through in the last 2 years, and how much they continue to have to wrestle with those things, and just how much we appreciate all of the efforts that they give every day in and out, through the weekend, through the night. I guarantee you there's somebody in a building right now doing work.
I
still.
guarantee it, yeah.
Guarantee it. Probably multiple buildings. So just really appreciate all of their efforts and continue to give all they've got for our kids.
Thank you. Anything else? Board reports. All right, moving on to preview about upcoming meeting and events. Dr. Wright.
Board President, Trustees, our next board meeting will indeed be Monday, November 22nd. As an old history teacher, I'd be remiss if I didn't reference that is a day that we know Walter Cronkite mentioned would live in infamy. November 22nd, 1963, I'm sorry. It's a dark time, Kennedy. But nevertheless, that is our next board meeting, Monday, November 22nd, as it is the holiday board schedule. And so, but yes, Monday, November 22nd is the next meeting.
Thank you. Moving on. Dr. Wright, you have a adjournment and, or a bell ringer for us?
Yes, sir, Board President and trustees, as we move forward with the adjournment and bell ringer, we're going to shift at our November 22nd meeting. Mrs. Hazel Baker, our communications specialist, will be joining us during this particular time to share with us the positivity and the positive happenings throughout our district within that 2-week window. Unfortunately, Mrs. Hazel Baker is not with us this evening, but on the 22nd she will be. However, tonight, and Mr. Morey attempted to steal my thunder, but I'm going to ask that Mrs. Sonsini come to the podium to share some of the amazing professional development that is already occurring, and under Mrs. Sonsini's leadership as our Director of Student Achievement, we've had Schmeckens as well as many other renowned programming initiatives that are really taking shape. And so I apologize, Mr. Moyer, just teasing, but Mrs. Sonsini, if you don't mind just sharing some of that positivity.
She deserves more than one round of kudos.
No doubt about it. No doubt. I agree wholeheartedly. Yes.
Board members, Dr. Wright, thank you for this opportunity. I will make it brief, but I do want to celebrate and share the intentional work that's being done across the district as it relates to writing. And it's a passionate area of mine, as well as many of our teachers who brought this to our attention a few years ago, saying we need some time to further develop our craft for teaching writing. And so tonight I want to specifically highlight the Charles team. I had the opportunity to observe their 3rd and 4th grade teams working with Christy McCullough from Schmeckens today during a 2-hour block of time. And so I want to highlight the 2 components that I observed. The first one is explicit instruction. So if you can imagine in the library there at Charles, Christy, the lead from Schmeckens, was explicitly talking about the different types of modes of writing, and persuasive writing came up. And so we were talking about, how we persuade people and how we cite evidence. And so in PLCs, so grade level teams in the library, they were looking at standards, talking about what kind of writing we see on assessments. And if you're not familiar on iLearn, there is a rotation of assessment questions related to writing, specifically narrative, informative, and persuasive writing. And so those will come up. Sometimes kids know what that genre or mode will be. Other times it's just a spiral and a random. So you might have one third grader who gets argumentative and one who gets narrative. So it's important that as the year progresses, we expose students to those different types of writing and the skills within them. So that's the first piece, the explicit part, where Schmeckens is really talking about building teacher capacity in teaching writing. And then the second piece, which is always my favorite, is going into the classroom. And so those 3rd and 4th grade teachers went into Mrs. West's classroom, and the Schmeckens consultant, Christy, modeled what that lesson looked like. And so in that lesson, she talked with the kids about a train and ordering cars in a train, and how we order in persuasive writing our evidence. And so if you don't know, you start with your second best, and then you move to your third best, and then your first piece, best evidence, is last, and that's how you close your persuasive writing. And so trying to develop that writing skill among our kids is a goal of ours. And so after that modeled lesson, then there's a debriefing with the teachers back in the library where they talk about what they saw, what went well, what was hard, how did they engage those kids. And then the piece that's most important to me is the transfer of skill. And so that is something that I learned something new today. The verb of conferring versus conferencing. And so what Schmeckens will say is, we're hosting conferences with students, and there's different purposes for those conferences, whether it's a product conference, which probably many of you are familiar with in learning traditionally, where you have to finish a product, right? Like you go from every stage of writing, and then you meet with the teacher and show that finished product, versus a process conference. And so in conferring with these writers, our students, and coaching them up, we're really looking at the process piece, right? So we're not looking at a piece from the beginning to the end, but just the skill that they're developing in their writing. So in persuasive writing, being able to order those different pieces of evidence. And so there's a quote that Schmeckens shared, and they said, conferring with students is our most crucial writing workshop role, right? Because that's the transfer of skill. And so what I want to highlight and celebrate tonight with you is that Charles team and those 3rd and 4th grade teachers that are really leaning in and wanting to be better teachers of writing for their kids. And so as we continue to further develop as a professional learning organization, I think it's worth noting that those PLCs are doing a lot to model what it is to be a learner. And so not only are our students learner, but our teachers are learners, and there is a lot on their plate. And so the fact that they're leaning in and that as a district we're embracing this professional learning organization, we all can learn. I learned something new today, I think is really important. So again, I want to celebrate Mrs. Phillips, as well the leader at Charles and their team for the work being done around writing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sonsini.
Thank you.
And to piggyback on what Mrs. Sonsini referenced, and as we've discussed, as far as that importance of professional development and importance of continuing to enhance the overall professional learning community, and as a whole, the professional learning organization, as Dr. Rice has come and spoke, as we've worked with, such terms and ideals of conferring, or the gradual release model, or the I do, you do, we do, checking for understanding and providing distributive feedback. These are all, this is terminology that's currently being used, but we're definitely looking to continue to improve upon and enhance those particular initiatives to bring about the best quality of education for our students. And a lot of great things going on there, not only at Charles, but also throughout our district. When you go into Vale and Star, Westview, Crestdale, when you visit the Hibbert building, as Mr. Moore was there, our high school, Dennis and Test, a lot of amazing things. Of course, we have some room for improvement, which we always do as humble, reflective scholars, but knowing we have the energy of Mrs. Sonsini and our building of leaders and outstanding educators, we're going to continue to take those necessary steps to bring about the change that we all expect to see. So I'm excited. I know I apologize.
Why do you apologize for being excited?
Well, I sometimes I just thinking about tomorrow's future and serving students. That's what brought me back, and being in a position to be able to do that is just it's humbling and exciting. Yes, sir.
All right, well, we'll have an executive session after, but our public meeting is adjourned. Thank you.